As we cross the line, the race officially begins. This is my season opener. Hey, cycling community, this is Steve Grusis, the Cycling Greek. This season, particularly this first race, I had a lot of things going through my mind, particularly focused around my now racing age of 70. This is the 65 group, so many of you may be thinking, well, 65, 70, what's the difference? Well, let me tell you, the difference between 65 and 70 is a lot greater than it is between 35s and 40. And in our group of 14, I'm the oldest. Add to that, I'm looking to peak around June. I finished my endurance section, and so this past month I started introducing or reintroducing VO2 max work. Of course, it didn't help to be sick for 2 weeks during that block. Jumping ahead a bit, when you look between the riders at the front of the pack, you'll see a little orange figure start to pull away. This is just 4 minutes into the race. That is Antonio Corgas from Penvelo. Of the 14 riders in this pack, half of the pack is filled with teams. 4 of them are from Penvelo. 3 of them are from Body Concepts. Everyone else is solo. The pack didn't react, and why should they? This is only 4 minutes into the race, and this was going to be for us about a 48-49 mile race. I'm sure many of the pack, like me, were thinking that he was going to get tired after a bit and come back into the pack. What happened was that the gap kept growing. Since there were 3 Body Concepts, it certainly wasn't my responsibility to chase, and I'm sure the other 6 individual riders were thinking the same thing. Every once in a while, Body Concepts would either go to the front to chase, or attack in a bid to bridge up to Antonio, where then Penvelo would chase them and we'd be on Penvelo's wheel, but usually we were going incredibly slow. During one such interlude, this happened. Michael McQueenie from Wholesome Master Cycling Team looked like he was leaning over to steady himself on Steve Clifton so we can look behind him. At least that's the way it looked to me when I was behind him. When I replayed this slower, then I see what caused the crash. Michael reaches out to Penvelo's Steve Clifton, maybe not to lean back, but more to emphasize a point. He sees he's coming into the rear wheel in front of him, puts his arm back, but not in time. Fortunately, there was no major damage. He waved us on, got back on a bike, and actually he caught us during our speed up, slow down phase, which was most of the race. Going back to the I'm peaking in June and I'm older, this is one of the unfortunate things that I noticed. When there was a surge and I was or became separated, I had a heck of a time getting back onto the field. This was a particularly tough one. I thought I got back to the field, but it was to a small dropped group. Now I'm hanging on someone's wheel, hoping that they can get me up to the pack because I can't do much of anything else, and fortunately they do. I want to move up to create a buffer, but I think I'm just happy just to be connected. For those of you not familiar with this race course, this is mostly a flat, rolling kind of course, except for the midway point, which is also the finishing point, where there is about 2 miles of stepped climbing. Usually I've been at the back or near the back, but when climbing's involved, I want to be toward the front. If nothing else, when things get tough, I can sag climb. During my muscle building phase this past winter, even though I've gained more fat than I wanted to, I feel a lot more confident climbing than I do on the flats. That is not to say I'm not feeling that extra weight on the climbs. Even though climbing can be a challenge for anyone, the critical part of this course is the turnaround and the downhill. At least it was for me. It was critical for me to be toward the front and have a good 180 and then explode out, but I don't have a lot of explosive power, as you can see. Even though we're going downhill, you can see I'm having trouble hanging on. My heart rate's now 158, 159, and my max is 164, so I'm topping out. That little bump in the distance is my chance to get back on, and I do. Boy, did that cost, though. Now, what you've seen that I've done so far is not everything that I've did in this race. There was a point in this race where things were just going too slow, too long, so I would jump to get things started. Well, what happened is that they let me go, then I just keep going because the Antonio was not, he was floating between 30 seconds and seems like 2 minutes in front of us. And so I did this during one of the times when he was closer to 30 seconds. So then I would just kind of float out there, I would just ride. Eventually they would come by and they would counter me, and then the same thing would happen. I'd have to chase them and chase them hard to get reconnected to them. I did that about twice, and I learned not to do that anymore. Another time I went through the pack trying to organize independents to start a chase at the second half of the race. That one didn't work out so well, and that may have been because that I was so reamed that I wasn't able to organize it when we got to the second half. Speaking of, there was another surge. Actually an attack. Matt Peters from Body Concepts caught Penvello out of position and attacked. Kevin Willis, his teammates right behind him, lets him go. William Wiggs from Foulet Factory Racing jumps onto Matt with Kevin on his wheel, and they're off. Not thinking about who's behind me, I'm now chasing. I start to falter, and they all go past me. Now I'm on their wheel, at least I'm trying to get on their wheel because I'm sort of yo-yoing off. My power's starting to diminish. Typically what happens at this point is that I try to maintain whatever speed that I can and wait for the pack to slow down. They never do. Well, they actually do, but it's well long after I wanted them to. That is, when there's a huge gap between me and them. The best I can do at that point is just try and slowly catch up to them, but I never really do. It's at this point where all those thoughts come into my head. Where I love to race and train, the number of people I can effectively race and train with are diminishing as I get older. I'm reminded of this Far Side comic. The one where you have this fat kid with a straw slowly sucking up water from a small fish bowl that has one fish in it, looking up with trepidation. The fish is me. The water is bicycle racing. And the fat kid? That's age. Alright, enough of this self-indulgence. There's still a lot of action to recount. Approaching the final turnaround, I see that Antonio has a 21-second lead on the pack. However, this pack that you're seeing here, those are the Cat 3s, and they apparently will play a pivotal role in the outcome of this race. The pack that's approaching now are the 65s. And, unfortunately, I still have a ways to go till that turnaround. The balance of the race, at least for me, was not all that exciting. Eric Gray from San Jose Bicycle Club caught up to me and we worked together. Actually, he worked a lot stronger until we got toward the end where he outsprinted me for the finish. But things weren't done yet. Antonio, did you make it all the way?
I made it all the way, but I'm cramped. I was cramped.
Hey, it doesn't matter, man.
One lady cramping all the way except some guy yelling at him. I'm going to go give him the Sicilian.
One lady was to help me out on my bike. I couldn't get off.
Oh, okay.
I was scramping out.
But you crossed the line first.
Yeah.
All right.
But stop. What happened? Then one guy said, oh, you rode with the other guy. Then you rode no guy. When the turnaround, they caught me on the turnaround, and I rode about 100 yards when you guys passed.
Okay.
And then they go on, and I stay behind about 200 yards, 250 yards, and I say, I'm gonna try to stay this 200 yards, okay. 200 feet, and they push. What they do, they push hard, they slow down, push hard, and they slow, and they stay. I'll stay back all the time, but 200 yards gap because I know I cannot ride with them.
Okay.
Leave them alone.
Yeah.
How far ahead did you finish?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know because
no, they weren't too far behind you.
I couldn't stop my bike. I stopped it right here, right on that car.
And you saw in seconds. How many seconds? A minute?
Oh, not many. Eric was there. Maybe 10.
10 seconds?
The next group of yours came.
Yeah, like 10 seconds.
Like Steve, I think it was Steve.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
Oh, wow. Nice job.
Yeah, it was 10 seconds.
Okay, I didn't have the camera on for that. I just passed another rider, and they said they were going to go back and report Antonio. Apparently, from what he was saying, Antonio was riding with another group, because I saw that that fast group that passed me and then I guess eventually passed them. And when I came across them, I saw that Antonio was a little bit ahead of him. So it may be that he melded in with them, if what he's saying is true. I've got some upper end work to do. Now, kind of expected, because I am aiming for June or so, but still, it kind of sucks.